From your local election headquarters, here's Fred Childers with This Week in Louisiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. Governor-elect Jeff Landry named a few key appointments to his administration this week. Jacques Thibodeau will be the new director of the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. He is a retired colonel in the Louisiana National Guard. Neil Fudge will serve as deputy director of GOSEP. Tyler Gray will be Secretary of Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, and Susan Schoen will be Director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission. For weeks now, the city of New Orleans has been saying violent crime is down, and just released NOPD crime stats for the year showed that it is down. But one crime category is way up. Auto theft is up more than 60% compared to 2022. In 2023, there were more than 7,000 reports of auto theft, almost 3,000 more than there were in 2022. However, murders, non-fatal shootings, and carjackings are all down from 2022, with carjackings seeing the most significant decrease, down more than 40%.
That means that we're going to have more police officers, and the police department's going to have to pivot while they were rebuilding their numbers to be able to address some of the crime problems. We're starting to see that pivot right now.
The change is being accelerated by more technology utilized by NOPD and partnerships, including the one with Louisiana State Police. The mayor of Bogalusa wants to set the record straight. He says he does not want to get rid of the Bogalusa Police Department. He does say that the police department is way over budget. Rick Gogrieve brings us the details of this controversy.
It's the talk of the town in Bogalusa, where Mayor Tyron Trong has been accused of wanting to defund the police. However, I spoke with Trong, who tells me that's not the case. He says his focus is to reform the department's budget that, according to his Facebook page, is $600,000 in the red. When I asked Acting Assistant Police Chief Major Troy Tervalon his thoughts on the matter, he said that cuts have already begun.
We're interested in looking at some ways to save money. We've actually cut our overtime compared to last year by nearly 50%. We've limited our staffing this year by 25% on most day shifts, 20% on most night shifts.
And as for future budget cuts, Tervalon says he is ready to meet with the mayor to discuss the matter.
We're interested in sitting down and talking with the administration, and we're open to suggestions. Let's see how they fit into our way of thinking and our way of working, and see if we can come to some solution.
As for residents, some support the mayor, saying his job is to keep the city's budget in check.
So where the mayor has a fiscal responsibility to keep the city within that budget, otherwise we'll get taken over by the state like we did with previous administrations. He's not going to let that happen.
While others say they're happy to hear that the police department is willing to continue discussing the budget with the mayor, hoping that both sides can come to terms.
Well, if they're willing to work with him, I can go along with that. But all this pretense saying you're going to do and don't do, I don't go along with that. Because Bogalusa is 75 years behind time, and everybody needs to get on the same page to try to move Bogalusa to the future.
Gogrieve reporting. With the new year came a slew of new laws going into effect. One law caused a lot of controversy this year, the ban on gender-affirming care for minors. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht brings us a recap of the debate and what the new law means for families.
The bill that bans gender-affirming care for minors had a tumultuous run through the legislature. Not only did it face backlash and support from the community, it was killed in committee, revived, then vetoed by the governor, and finally that veto was overturned.
House Bill 648 will ensure that Louisiana's children receive help, not harm.
The law bans doctors from prescribing puberty blockers, hormones, or gender reassignment surgeries for anyone under the age of 18. An argument against the law is that it restricts parents from making healthcare decisions with a doctor for their own child. But proponents for the bill believe that it is harmful to children, often citing stories of children from other states who have chosen to detransition.
We do not get to just remove healthcare for one vulnerable population. That is discrimination.
The law says if a child has already begun gender-affirming care before January 1st, they have until the end of 2024 to end their treatment. Some families are looking to other states for options to continue treatment for their kids until they are adults.
He's doing great, and it's not fair to him to face the possibility that he'll be destabilized by withdrawing his medication. It's not fair for any of the kids.
Louisiana joins all of the surrounding states in the Deep South in banning this care for minors. Over 20 other states have passed similar laws, and some are stuck in court cases in those states as there are claims that the law is unconstitutional. Going forward, if a doctor in Louisiana were to prescribe these treatments for minors, they could have their licenses revoked and face civil action. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards will return to law when he leaves office on January 8th. Law firm Fishman Haygood in New Orleans announced that Edwards will join its business and litigation teams. Edwards was an attorney before becoming a lawmaker, then governor. While working at the law firm, Edwards looks to continue playing a leading role in Louisiana's renewable energy sector. Before taking on that role, Governor Edwards had to say goodbye. This week, he gave his final farewell address in his hometown of Amite. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht brings us the details of Edwards' speech.
Breeze of hope is still blowing.
Governor John Bel Edwards was the long-shot candidate 8 years ago. Starting as a relatively unknown state representative, he beat the odds in 2015 and squeaked through in 2019, and has remained the only Democrat governor in the Deep South.
Not many people believed that I could win. But choosing the path was never about power. It was never about proving a point. It wasn't about politics. Truthfully, it wasn't even about me. It was about people.
Addressing the crowd of his family, friends, and neighbors, he looked back on everything Louisiana's had to overcome during his tenure. Some have even dubbed him the crisis governor after all the natural disasters, unrest, and the pandemic met him at the door.
The sugar cane still grows. The Red River still flows. Tourists still flock to Mardi Gras. The Tangipahoa pear strawberries are still the best in the world. The good times still roll.
He didn't shy from putting on display his accomplishments in office. From budget surpluses he put towards education and infrastructure, to criminal justice reform, to Medicaid expansion bringing health care to millions.
Every single thing we've done, in contrast to what's happening across the country and certainly in Washington, D.C., has been on a bipartisan basis.
His wife and close colleagues sent him off with a kind word. And while the leadership in Louisiana is going to see a stark change, ushering in a much more conservative approach with a supermajority Republican legislature and Jeff Landry at the helm, Edwards is optimistic for the future.
We leave Louisiana much better than we found it 8 years ago, and stronger than ever in many, many respects. I leave the governor's office as optimistic as I have ever been about our future.
Edwards officially signs off on the morning of January 8th. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
All right, Republicans from Capitol Hill went to the southern border this week, and former President Trump's ballot battles are headed to the Supreme Court. That's next.